Have you ever had that feeling of always being behind, of seeing everyone else making money from investments except you? It seems like there's something only others know, right? The truth is, you might be falling into the most silent trap of all, believing without thinking. In this video, I'll show you what no one tells you about investing in 2025 and why thinking it through is the only real path. By the way, tell me in the comments, have you ever made a financial decision that you regret to this day? Have you noticed how everyone seems to know how to invest these days? It's as if the world has become a giant platform for experts. You open Instagram and someone tells you where to put your money. You go to YouTube and someone shows you a magic formula to get rich quick. It all seems so simple, so easy that we start to wonder, why am I not making money from this yet? But there's something wrong with this equation, because if it were truly easy, if you just had to follow a step-by-step process, why do so many people still go broke? Why do so many people enter the market thinking they'll change their lives in a few months and leave with less than they started with? The answer, as harsh as it may seem, is simple. Selling ease is profitable, but living the reality of investing requires effort, and few people are willing to face that. In 2025, the illusion of ease has become even more sophisticated. Investment apps are increasingly beautiful, intuitive, and use language that makes anyone feel in control. You press 2 buttons, choose a stock, swipe, and voila, you feel like an investor. But the market isn't controlled by your intuition. It's driven by logic, mathematics, human emotions, and most importantly, by people far more prepared than you. People who studied for years, made costly mistakes, and learned to survive where the amateur only tries to protect himself. The problem is that no one tells you this. Because thinking is tiring. Because stopping to reflect on risks, studying fundamentals, understanding economic cycles, and controlling your own impulses, all of this takes work. And most people don't want work. They want results, preferably immediate. And when the results don't come, when the money disappears, they blame the market, blame luck, blame anything, except their own haste. The truth is that investing isn't for those who dare to take risks, but for those who dare to wait. Wait while everyone screams, while the market sways, while fear and greed try to push your mind to extremes. And this isn't something you learn in a weekend course. It's built with patience, questioning, and reflection. With a life philosophy that understands that money is just one part of something much bigger. So if you're entering 2025 thinking you'll get rich in a few months because you saw someone on TikTok saying they doubled their wealth in 3 weeks, beware. This is the gateway to delusion. And the more confident you feel, the more vulnerable you become. Investing is simple, but it's not easy. And perhaps your biggest mistake is precisely this, believing that because it seems easy, then it must be. One of the biggest lies we hear when we start investing is that the market is the same for everyone. This sounds nice, democratic, meritocratic, but it's not true. The reality is harsher. The market isn't a soccer field where everyone plays by the same rules. It's a silent arena, where those with more information, more preparation, and more time always have an advantage. By 2025, this inequality has become even more subtle. The big players continue to dictate the pace of the game, only now with algorithms, artificial intelligence, and advanced access to data you don't even know exists. While you're analyzing whether to buy a stock because you saw a YouTube video, they've already bought, sold, profited, and exited, and you don't even understand what happened. Your decision is slow, theirs instantaneous, and that doesn't mean you can't invest. Far from it. But it does mean you need to stop believing you're playing the same game as them. Because if you go in believing that, you're positioning yourself wrong. You act in haste, and you end up becoming someone smarter's prophet. It's like walking into a poker table where the other players know all the cards before you sit down. They smile, welcome you, even make you believe you can win. But while you're feeling confident, thinking you're playing well, they're just waiting for the right moment to take everything you brought. This is called the market, and it's not evil. It just is what it is. What no one tells you is that the market thrives on the money of those who enter unprepared. That's how it breathes. For some to win, others have to lose. And the curious thing is that those who lose the most are the ones most deluded by the idea that willpower is enough, that they just need to want it badly enough. But it's not enough. Investing in this scenario is like trying to cross a river with a strong current. If you think you'll make it because you saw someone crossing easily, you might only be seeing the tip of the iceberg. Maybe that person has tried 1,000 times, lost, or nearly drowned, but you only saw the moment of victory, and now you're jumping in without knowing how to swim. The game isn't fair, but it's not impossible either. It just requires a different approach. The humility to recognize what you don't yet know. A watchful eye to realize that you might be being used as a pawn in something bigger, because only when you understand that you're not on equal footing do you truly begin to play. Do you know what brings down investors more than any crisis, any bubble, or any market fluctuation? Laziness in thinking. It may seem harsh, but it's a truth no one likes to face. Because it requires looking in the mirror and admitting that we often want results without effort. We want a harvest without sowing. And in the investment world, that's an open invitation to disaster. In 2025, everything is faster. People jump from video to video, from recommendation to recommendation, without stopping for 2 minutes to reflect on whether it makes sense to them, whether it fits their profile, whether it makes sense in the context of their lives. It's as if time to think has become a luxury. But investing isn't about copying. It's about understanding, about questioning, and that takes work. Thinking is tiring. It requires silence, analysis, patience. But most people want shortcuts. They want tell me where to put my money and I'll put it there. But it's not like that. The market is driven by uncertainty. And when you outsource your thinking, you also outsource the consequences. And worst of all, when everything goes wrong, you don't even know why. You only know you lost, that you regret it, but you don't know what you could have done differently. There's a huge difference between listening to advice and giving up on reasoning. The problem is that most people don't seek information to better understand. They seek it to reinforce what they've already decided on impulse. They already want to invest in that asset, they've already felt the euphoria, and they'll look for arguments that validate it, even if they're full of holes, even if they're empty promises. The truth is, money slips easily from the hands of those who don't think. The market loves this type of investor, because they enter for the wrong reason, act at the wrong time, exit in despair, and become a statistic, and then blame the world. But the mistake was a lack of mental effort, a refusal to stop, breathe, and truly study. It's not about being a financial genius. It's about having the willingness to think, to go beyond the obvious, to look at a promise of 20% per month and ask, why is this still being offered to me and not bought by all the big names? It's about being suspicious, reflecting, questioning before acting. Ultimately, investing is more philosophy than mathematics. It's more about how you manage time, risk, and your own impulses. And if there's one thing philosophers have always warned us about, it's this. Those who don't think are at the mercy of others' thoughts. And in the market, that costs a lot, very dearly. When you hear the word philosophy, what comes to mind? Probably some distant academic image full of old books and complicated phrases. But the truth is that philosophy is in everything, including your investments. And the curious thing is, it's precisely this dimension that the financial market hides most from you. Wall Street doesn't talk about Seneca, Nietzsche, or Epictetus. But it should, because these ancient thinkers, so far removed from the world of charts and assets, understood human behavior better than any technical analyst. And the market, at its core, is just that, a vast mirror of our desires, fears, and impulses. Those who don't understand human beings lose money. It's that simple. Think about it. Every investment boom is, above all, a well-told story, a desire for quick wealth, a hope for freedom, an escape from routine. And what did ancient philosophers already say? That man is a slave to his own emotions when he fails to acknowledge them. That haste, greed, and fear are internal forces that govern our actions when not illuminated by consciousness. Do you know why no one teaches you this? Because it's not profitable. Because the market thrives on people who act without thinking. They buy because things are going up. They sell because things are going down. They enter because others are entering. And they leave because they're scared. People like that are predictable. And those who are predictable are exploitable. The average investor thinks they're in control because they read reports, watch videos, and track quotes. But true strength lies in those who control their impulses, those who know how to wait, those who accept losing today to gain more tomorrow. Those who choose not to act when everything inside them screams for action. This is pure stoicism, and it's rare. That's why it works. In 2025, algorithms know your behavior better than you do. They know when you tend to panic. They know the kind of promises that attract you. They even know what time of day you click the most. It's as if the market has become a grand psychological experiment, and you're the test subject. That's why thinking philosophically is a form of protection. When you start observing your mind, realizing what truly moves you, you stop being an easy target. You start acting with clarity, with purpose, with discernment. And this, though it may seem subtle, changes everything. The financial market doesn't want you to think like a philosopher, because that would make you freer. And freedom, in this game, is a threat to the system that profits from your anxiety. But if you decide to follow this path, you'll realize one thing. Investing consciously is less about money and more about character. We have this habit of thinking we invest logically, that we make decisions based on data, analysis, and fundamentals. But the truth is simpler and more uncomfortable. Most of our financial choices are emotional, and this means that, in practice, the way you invest says much more about who you are than about the market itself. The investor is a mirror. They reveal what's hidden inside us. If you're in a hurry, you'll seek quick returns. If you're afraid of falling behind, you'll chase the latest fad. If you need approval, you'll invest where everyone else is, even if you don't understand anything. And the market silently reflects this back to you, like a mirror that never lies. The problem is that most people don't realize it. They think they're making technical decisions, when in fact they're just reacting to the fear of losing, reacting to comparisons, reacting to the desire to prove something to someone. And when the market becomes an extension of their needs, it stops being a place of construction and becomes an emotional battlefield. How many times have you heard someone say, "I got into this stock because I saw someone I knew make money with it"? And how many times have you found yourself questioning whether you should get in too, just to stay on top? That's not analysis. That's anxiety disguised as decision-making. It's the search for belonging, for validation, for a place within a group that always seems one step ahead. In 2025, with so much exposure and so much content, the comparison has become even more cruel. The investor's timeline is a parade of people who supposedly got everything right, while you look at your portfolio and wonder, where did I go wrong? But this question starts from a false premise, that someone else's investment says something about your trajectory, and it doesn't. You don't have to run because someone else did. You don't have to join because it's trendy. What you really need is to look within and understand, what drives me to invest? Is it the desire to grow, or the fear of not being enough? Is it the search for freedom, or a desperate attempt to escape the life I'm leading? The way you relate to money is a reflection of how you relate to life. If you live on autopilot, you'll invest automatically. If you're constantly running away from yourself, you'll invest in assets that distract you from what really matters. Money only follows the direction your mind allows, and therein lies the point. Investing is an intimate act, almost spiritual. It's not about charts nor about profitability. It's about knowing yourself, and that, yes, is what almost no one is willing to do. There's a scene that repeats itself over and over again. A guy with an expensive car and a house in the background, saying he started from scratch and now lives off his income, that he learned the secret to money, that he knows exactly what you need to do to get rich, and luckily, he decided to share it with you. As long as you buy his course, of course. The truth no one likes to admit is that many so-called financial gurus don't get rich investing. They get rich selling the idea that investing is easy, that you can make money quickly, effortlessly, painlessly, because selling hope yields more returns than living the reality. And deep down, that's what they do. Sell canned hope in ready-made packages. And look, I'm not saying there aren't serious people in the market. There are. Good people who study, who teach responsibly. But these people usually don't shout, don't promise the world, and rarely go viral. Because what draws attention these days isn't solid content. It's the spectacle, the performance. And the beginning investor, who is often lost and lacking direction, clings to this as if it were a lifeline. The problem begins when you transfer your autonomy to these people, when you stop thinking and start repeating, because then, whatever goes wrong, you won't understand why. You'll feel deceived, betrayed. But deep down, the choice to believe without question was yours. The guru only offered what you wanted to hear, and that sometimes is the most dangerous part. There's a market that revolves around your insecurity. Platforms, influencers, courses, promises, all trying to capture your attention and, most importantly, your haste, because they know you're tired of your job, afraid of the future, and looking for a way out. They study this. They know that if they show you a seemingly simple path, you'll click, you'll trust, you'll pay. But if you stop and think about it, there's a question that dismantles everything. If the method is so good, why does he need to sell it to survive? Why doesn't he just use the method in silence and make a living from it? The answer, most of the time, is uncomfortable. Because the method isn't that good. Because it's more profitable to create the appearance of success than to experience the real process, which is slow, frustrating, and not very Instagrammable. True financial wisdom doesn't shout. It observes. It doubts. It chooses calmly. And above all, it thinks for itself. Gurus may point the way, but you're the one who makes the journey. And if you outsource the journey, you can't complain about where it ends. Everyone wants financial freedom. This phrase has become a mantra. It's the modern dream. To be able to live without depending on a boss, without having to wake up early, without having to worry about bills. But what almost no one talks about is the price of this freedom. And it's not paid in money. It's paid in effort, time, discomfort, and above all, in difficult choices that not everyone is willing to make. Because financial freedom seems beautiful when we see the end of the story. The guy who travels the world, who works from his laptop on the beach, who lives off his income. But what's not shown in the videos is the part where he had to say no to parties, hold hands when everyone else was spending, study while others slept, invest while others scoffed, the part where he was called crazy, a cheapskate, obsessed. That part takes a lot of work to show. The truth is that freedom isn't the absence of discipline. It's the result of it. There's no comfortable path to a comfortable life, at least not a real path, one that doesn't depend on luck or inheritance. The truest path is made of daily sacrifices, of unpopular decisions, of patience when everything inside you urges you to hurry. And that's tiring. That's frightening. That's alienating. In 2025, more than ever, everything pushes you toward consumption. Social media shows you what you should have. Influencers show off what you haven't yet achieved. Ads constantly remind you that you're behind. And in the midst of all this, you feel pressured to spend before you even earn, to appear prosperous before you even understand what prosperity is. And then freedom becomes a distant, almost impossible concept. But it's still possible. But to achieve it, you'll have to do what few do. Resist. Resist the urge to want everything now. Resist comparison. Resist the idea that there's a shortcut. You'll have to sit with the discomfort, the doubt, the tedium of studying, of making mistakes, of starting over. You'll have to learn to wait when the whole world is pushing you to rush. Financial freedom is like fertile ground. You plant it, tend it, water it, wait. And sometimes, even when you've done everything right, a storm hits. Even so, you come back the next day. Because those who understand the value of freedom also understand that it only comes to those who don't give up halfway through the process. So if you're on this journey, don't be fooled by promises of easy results. There is no freedom without discipline, and there is no harvest without consistency. The price is high, yes, but the reward, living with autonomy, with purpose, with peace, is worth every penny of effort. Few people like to hear this, but the way you handle money says a lot about you. It doesn't transform anyone. It reveals them. Money amplifies what's already inside us. If you're disorganized, it exposes chaos. If you're impulsive, it multiplies mistakes. If you're patient, it rewards you. And if you're insecure, it becomes an emotional battlefield. Money is a direct reflection of your most intimate decisions, of your relationship with time, with fear, with desire, with your own self-esteem. It's no wonder so many people gain and lose with equal ease, because they haven't changed internally. They simply had access to more resources but lacked the maturity to manage them clearly. And the result? Loss of control, regret, guilt. Investing in 2025 is much more than a technical skill. It's an emotional act. It's like a mirror that forces you to face yourself, because when you decide where to invest your money, you're expressing what you value. When you spend everything to look good, you're screaming for approval. When you don't invest for fear of loss, you're revealing how much you're still ruled by panic. And all of this happens silently, deep inside. That's why many people live in cycles. Earn, lose, save, spend, advance, retreat. Because it's not about knowing what to do with money, it's about being emotionally prepared to deal with what it represents. And that requires more than numbers. It requires self-knowledge. Think about it. How many financial decisions have you made out of anger, euphoria, fear of falling behind? These emotions, left untreated, become saboteurs. They distort reality. They make you believe you need more, when what you really need is balance. They make you take unnecessary risks, just to try to prove yourself to someone. And this, of course, has a cost. A high cost. Money ultimately doesn't solve your internal problems. It only makes them more visible. If you don't know how to deal with scarcity, you probably won't know how to deal with abundance either. If you haven't learned to say no to a little, you won't be able to say no to a lot. And the freedom you seek through money can become a new prison, only more sophisticated. So if you want to change your financial life, start with yourself. Observe your patterns. Question your impulses. Ask yourself why you act the way you do. Because there's no point in having the best strategies in the world if you remain the same as always. Money will simply follow your direction, whether conscious or not. Investing is, above all, an exercise in identity, and the more you know yourself, the more you'll get it right. Not because you're lucky, but because you've stopped being your own enemy. If there's one thing time shows those who observe carefully, it's that the financial market is made of cycles, booms and busts, euphoria and panic, promises and disappointments. And no matter how much technology changes, how products evolve, how narratives become more sophisticated, deep down, everything continues to function the same way. Because what drives cycles isn't assets, it's people. And people change very little. In 2025, history repeats itself once again. First it was real estate, then stocks, then cryptocurrencies, now artificial intelligence. Each of these waves arrived laden with promises. This time it's different, but it never is. Because what repeats itself isn't the asset itself, it's human behavior in the face of novelty. Greed disguised as optimism, fear disguised as prudence, the desire to be first, the shame of being left out. And it's always like this. At first, few believe. The first ones enter silently. They study, test, wait. Then the returns start to appear. The numbers grow. And then the videos appear. The courses. The influencers. The crowds come in. The price explodes. Total euphoria. People quit their jobs, go into debt, gamble everything. Until one day, the crash comes. It always does. Because the market doesn't rise forever. And then comes the panic, the despair, the frustration. And it all starts again. If you look closely, you'll realize that the only thing that changes is the disguise, the packaging, but the cycle is the same. And if you don't understand this, you always end up entering at the wrong time, when it's already too late. Because the cycle doesn't warn you when it's going to turn, it just turns. And those who pay attention notice. Those who are euphoric ignore the signs. What no one tells you is that financial success is more about recognizing cycles than predicting the next hot asset. Because those who understand cycles understand human behavior, and those who understand human behavior understand the market. And that's worth its weight in gold. By 2025, the signs are all there. Just watch. When you see ordinary people talking about investing as if they were experts, when you see absurd profits in short time frames, when you feel a strange rush to stay ahead, it's because the cycle is about to turn, and if you don't think about it, you'll be dragged along. Most people repeat their mistakes because they want to believe that this time will be different, but only the scenario changes. The logic is the same. And while many are looking at the trendy asset, real investors are looking at the crowd's behavior, because that's what reveals everything. And those who learn to read the cycles learn to survive, and more than that, to thrive in silence. Thinking is profitable. But not just any kind of thinking. It's not superficial automatic thinking, the kind that only confirms what you already want to hear. It's deep, uncomfortable thinking that makes you question yourself, that forces you to slow down in a fast-paced world. And that's precisely why so few people truly profit, because thinking until the end is exhausting. In the investment journey, what separates those who survive from those who are swallowed up isn't just technical knowledge. It's the willingness to sustain thought when everything around you screams for quick decisions. Thinking things through means analyzing, doubting, and waiting. It means resisting the impulse, the noise, and the immediacy that the market constantly pushes. It means asking tough questions and not running away when the answers are uncomfortable. The market loves those who can't think things through, because these are the investors who buy on impulse, who enter late, who sell desperately. They're the investors who are always reacting, never creating. They look for formulas, gurus, shortcuts, and who end up profiting from those who, in silence, chose to think a little longer. The difference between these two profiles seems small, but it becomes immense over time, Because deep thinking builds vision, and those with vision make better decisions. While the short-sighted person constantly corrects mistakes, the thinker builds strategies. While one puts out fires, the other turns on headlights. In 2025, with so much information, so much noise, so much distraction, thinking has become an act of resistance. Real thought has become almost a form of freedom. Because the more you think deeply, the more you free yourself from manipulation, from easy promises, from games that weren't designed for you to win. But thinking is tiring, and many give up halfway through. They prefer the comfort zone of repeating what others do, following trends, buying into the collective euphoria. But financial freedom, the real kind, doesn't come easily. It comes with clarity, and clarity only comes to those who can think even when everything seems confusing. Thinking things through means facing your own fear. It means accepting that you don't know everything. It means being willing to learn, make mistakes, and adjust. It means being patient when everyone is shouting. It means observing when everyone wants to act. And most importantly, it means trusting yourself, even when the crowd points the other way. Ultimately, the greatest asset you can have as an investor isn't a promising stock or an insider tip. It's a thinking mind. A mind that doesn't succumb to noise, that doesn't get lost in illusions, that prefers the raw truth to the comfort of a pretty lie. Because it's this mind that over time reaps what few can, conscious profits, and peace with one's own decisions. By now you've probably realized that investing in 2025 isn't just about finding the best asset, following the right trend, or repeating what others are doing. It's above all about stopping, thinking, and observing yourself, because the market will continue to be the same force field as always. What changes is how you enter it. You can keep looking for ready-made answers, or you can start asking the questions that really matter. You can go with the flow, or you can become someone who chooses consciously, who invests clearly, who understands that money is just a reflection of your own journey. If this video helped you see the market in a different, more human and deeper way, then it was worth it. And if you feel this conversation needs to continue, that more people need to hear it, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who's still stuck in the trap of rushing. Here, we don't promise shortcuts, we offer reflection. And if you want to walk along, this space is yours too. See you in the next video. And until then, think, because thinking is still the most powerful investment you can make.